And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, it is not every day that a member of Congress gets to play host to the president, but my next guest did just that today. He also hitched a ride to and from Washington, D.C. on Air Force One. He is, of course, Congressman Paul Tonko, who is joining us from Washington, D.C. He's back already. That's where he is this evening. Thank you very much for your time, Congressman.
My pleasure, Liz. It's great to join you and your viewers.
It was a very quick trip, actually. It seemed like we blinked and it was all over. Did it feel like a whirlwind to you?
It did, and you know, it's having been on Air Force One in the past, everything is strategically planned down to the minute, if not beyond. And it works like clockwork, and you know, the president has a very busy agenda and is a very, you know, involved, energized sort of leader. And so these trips are planned very tight and very strategically again.
Yeah, I've actually been the pool press on one presidential trip, and if you step out of line, they just leave you right behind. So you have to stay on the Secret Service agenda right there, or you're done.
Well, this one moved rather quickly with the motorcade and the visit to the GE plant, and you know, it was great to be hosted by the CEO, by Jeff Immelt, and it was just a fascinating trip, I think, and a very flattering statement for the people who have inspired this public-private sector partnership in the Greater Capital Region, all hosted by the 21st Congressional District. And I think we are that showcase example of what can happen if you invest and plan for an innovation economy comeback. And I think as the third largest region for science and tech jobs in the country, and we're growing rapidly in that format, it's a very flattering statement to have the president acknowledge it and then celebrate it by his visit today.
The speech was just 17 minutes long, but of course he did really what he set out to do, which was highlight the fact that he is moving away from the rescue the economy from falling off the cliff to trying to boost the economy, to creating jobs, and then using GE as a model, obviously, as you just mentioned. How do you think that this is going to help the Democratic Party, particularly in the House, when you try and push in 2012 to win back control?
Well, I think that the biggest issue out there, Liz, is jobs, jobs, and jobs.
Right.
The creation and retention of jobs is the highest priority. So the president was very accurate when he talked about his first set of priorities. They were right on. It was to stop the bleeding of the recession. That was accomplished by investing in this country, providing for relief for school aid that was brought to local districts, and for state aid that came through the Medicaid assistance from Washington. And then tax relief, the largest middle-income tax cut in this nation's history. That all produced the sort of ripple effect that this team of economists that advised Congress and the White House, and they did so correctly. They stopped the bleeding of the recession. Now, I like the fact that this president, with his laser-sharp focus, is talking about engineering the comeback of our economy so that it is sustainable. And what we have here, by emphasizing manufacturing, clean energy, and innovation as buzzwords, we can go forward, I think, and not only compete, but compete effectively on the world scene by emphasizing the investments in manufacturing, modernizing it, innovating it, and bringing our resolve here as a nation to a level of passion so that we can win this global race on clean energy and innovation. You know, just yesterday, Liz, I attended the 50th anniversary celebration of John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, and so many people invoked many of the challenges in that speech. Prominent amongst them was his challenge to this country to explore the heavens. And you know, when we embraced, again, with passionate resolve, the efforts to enter into a global race on space, we won that race. We committed, we invested, we were goal-oriented, and look at the science and technology that was unleashed over the last several decades that impacted the quality of life from healthcare to communications to education, across a full gamut of activities.
Right.
Technology had a presence. So here, fast forward to this presidency, a rather youthful president, again, is challenging a nation to commit with that degree of passion to a global race on clean energy and innovation. And I think that that responds to that building of the economy that will then be sustainable. As an engineer involved in politics, as someone sitting on science and technology,
right.
I know that we're sitting on a hotbed of investment in the 21st Congressional District. Nanoscience, semiconductor.
Let me just interrupt you for 1 second, so please excuse me just for a second.
Sure.
We're talking, when you talk about the space race, though, you were talking about something very lofty and exploration off this planet and to another place. Now we're talking about ratcheting that back, almost refocusing onto a race that's actually, that we're not, one might argue that we're actually not winning at the moment. You've foreign countries that have an enormous investment in America. They hold a huge amount of our bonds, and so we're talking about trying to get them to buy our goods.
Right, and that's part of the showcasing that was done today.
Correct.
Not only did he highlight manufacturing being alive and well in our country, that the need to modernize and provide innovative opportunities for our manufacturing base, but to also underscore the importance of exporting. And we are exporting from that GE facility with the turbines that are being manufactured to other world nations. And so I think if we sit still and don't invest, the race passes us by, and we can ill afford to not ramp up and be involved in a competitive spirit, with a competitive spirit in that global race. I think that's the challenge to this country. China, Korea, India, Japan, Germany, many, many nations across the globe are entering into these sweepstakes, many more competitors than in the space race of decades ago. And so we need to commit to this. And it also responds to the technology ripple effect that comes into not only our businesses and industries, but our homes, where we can retrofit, we can modernize in a way that saves energy usage and creates new product lines, and it all translates into jobs, jobs that are new, not yet on the radar screen.
Let me just ask you this then.
Yes.
In terms of, the president has been, over I'd say the recent days, maybe the last week or so, refocusing on business. Not just with his policy, talking about reducing regulations, so business, to make it a more business-friendly environment, tapping Jeffrey Immelt from GE to head this revamped council, advisory council on the economy, to go into a new phase of creating jobs and not just stopping the slide off the precipice. And then also hiring a new chief of staff who has connections to business, J.P. Morgan, if I'm not mistaken. So is this potentially problematic? Because now he's trying to thread the needle. He's being quite conservative, arguably. This is an agenda that Republicans like a lot. Jeff Immelt is a Republican. Do you think that could be problematic as he goes forward with Democrats?
It's not problematic if we do it in a holistic manner. And one of the most important underpinnings of support would be the investment in basic research and R&D, because that then translates into product development, that translates into manufacturing, that equates to jobs, and then further equates the empowerment of the middle class. That, I think, is a sequential outcome that is strong and present, I think, and very much a stronger potential in the 21st Congressional District. And it's all about creating jobs, retaining jobs, and empowering the middle class. If we do this with the sort of commitment that invests in basic research and R&D, look, I'm in favor of capitalism as long as we invest in the development of the workforce and invest in the creation of jobs. When we get into some of these situations where we completely reduce the commitment to education, higher education, and basic research and R&D, that is when it becomes problematic. And so if we do that investment in the front end of activity, where you educate the workforce and you provide for R&D potential, you're then providing for those active verbs to take hold, to build, to create, to discover, and explore. And that's what we're about as Americans. That's our pioneer spirit. Do
you see at all a dichotomy in not just at the national level, but also at the state level? You're talking a lot about private industry. The focus today obviously was on GE. It's a private company. At the same time, when there's a national sort of attack, if you will, on public employees and the need to ratchet down cost of government. And we see it happening right here. And of course, a number of your constituents would likely be affected if 10,000 to 15,000 state workers are laid off. So isn't there a little bit of a dichotomy there?
I think what we need to do is have a two-pronged approach that deals with both public and private sector investment. We need to make certain that the essential services that are provided by our public sector workforce are maintained to a degree that is responding to the true dynamic of those programmings that are provided by this quality workforce. And so I think there's going to be the need for federal partnerships with our state and local counterparts to make certain that services for public safety, that respond to the ongoing daily needs of life, that they are done in a way that aren't reducing the service that is necessary and providing the workforce power that will provide for the quality of those services. And you know, we have to keep in mind also, as we crawled out of this recession, which was the most painful economic time since the Great Depression, one of the tough things to do right now would be to make these cuts in a way that they reduce the dollar flow from the economy. I think we cannot sustain that right now as an economy. So if we need these basic essential services, there needs to be a better partnership with the federal government.
Okay, so does that mean that you would be opposed to seeing a wholesale layoffs of the sort that we believe that the governor would actually propose?
Well, look, I know the state capitals are having struggles across this country, some far worse than what New York is experiencing.
True.
And that's why I think that the broader base, the larger quality that the federal government provides in terms of opportunity needs to be utilized in a partnership format so that we can respond to both the public and private sectors of the workforce. Both are critical, both are important, and we need to go forward in a way that invests in those education opportunities, the higher ed. Many of these come through public sector sources, that we invest in public safety, invest in community development. These are the quality of life issues that accompany the private sector job growth, and when you do both and do them effectively and efficiently, you maximize the success.
So I just want to ask you in parting, you mentioned earlier that you serve on the Science and Technology Committee. You served on that with Gabrielle Giffords, the congresswoman who was shot in Tucson.
I do.
She, of course, is heading to rehab today in Houston. I'm just curious if you've been in touch with her family and also if you have any thoughts on the matter.
Well, you know, we've all communicated with Gabby's staff and family, and you know, I'm just happy to hear the sort of progress she has made in a very short time. It's been a very trying week for her colleagues and certainly for her staff and family. She is an engaging sort of personality. I enjoy working with her on science and technology. She has a lot to offer. She helped me with a wind energy bill. I helped her with her solar energy bill. She's a class ahead of me, and there's this bonding between sophomores and freshmen when the freshmen arrive. And she's just easy to be around, and she's just tremendous to work with. So I wish her and Mark the best as they walk through this very difficult time. But I was bolstered by the news. In fact, I saw some of that news on Air Force One today in our travels. And the sort of love and affection that was expressed for her and Mark and the entire crew was just a powerful human dynamic. And I have every reason to believe with her will and with her energy and certainly with the many hopes and prayers that have been extended her way, that she will fully recover.
Well, certainly many people are hoping that. I want to thank you in the meantime, Tonko, Congressman Tonko. It's great to see you.
It is always a pleasure, Liz, and thank you for having me on.
Sorry for the technology.